They strut, they strum, and they can still rock in their 70s. Boston has seen a stream of concerts from aging musicians, but what's more remarkable is the seemingly ageless appeal of their music.
What's the next song you're going to do?
My Generation.
And what a generation it is. The Who, the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Tom Jones. Oh, indeed. And let's not forget the Stones. Providing satisfaction aplenty for decades from the 1960s onward. Sir Paul McCartney and his band ran right through Fenway Park last night. The now 71-year-old put the lyric in the little bandbox to a sellout crowd. And less than a month before that, the Rolling Stones came rocking and rolling through the TD Garden. Fans didn't seem to care that Mick and his mates are on the cusp of 70. I'll say, so when will that Led Zeppelin reunion tour finally happen? Lonely, 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 lonely. Now that would be a hot ticket. All right, and joining me here is Erin Amar, editor of rockerzine.com. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you for having me.
Any chance of Led Zeppelin getting back together?
I don't think so. But, you know, you can never know. Lots of times artists come out and they say all the time, oh, you know, we're never going to reunite, da-da. And then they change their minds.
I know this reporter for the Boston Globe tracked down the Kinks and wanted them to reunite, too.
Yes, and that was a big story. And, you know, I mean, Dave Davies, I think, has a new thing, but...
Not going to happen.
No, you know, but it's interesting. The Jam, well, Paul Weller is going to be here I think this month here in Boston. And I know that I knew someone who sat next to him on an airplane, and he said, you know, he would never reform the Jam. But what ended up happening is the other members of the Jam ended up reforming without him. And that actually happens fairly frequently. If one guy is out, then the rest of them will say, all right, I'm going to do it without him.
We only mentioned a few bands, and a lot of them were the British ones. But when you think about it, there's, you know, Willie Nelson, Aretha Franklin, Tina Turner. I mean, these are all people, frankly, of my generation, not yours, that have this enduring music. And what is it? Why is it?
Well, I mean, you know, part of the people's feeling, I think, about a lot of these classic artists is, of course, nostalgia, right? I mean, these people, their music was a big part of your life at one point. And so we take that forward, you know, like you remember them when you were 20 or something like that. But, you know, on the other hand, you know, if people just wanted to hear this music, they would stay home and they would listen to the record. People really want to go out and see them live, I think, to connect with other fans, to sort of enjoy the ritual of going out again. You know, having that sort of live experience is something that allows you to connect with even people you don't know.
No, I know. I went to the Beach Boys and the Rolling Stones. I took a pass on this one. I just thought, you know, I don't know if I want to do that.
No?
Yeah. Did you go?
No, I did not go, but I sat on the Twitter feed last night just watching it unfold, which actually was really interesting because you got to see, like, it was really interesting to see social media, you know, coming together, and you could see just posts of complete strangers and photos, and some people complaining, some people really happy, but most people are very happy with his performances.
That was the biggest concert, most successful one, the largest one that Boston has had, 36,000. It was like Fenway night. They sold out the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, so, and he is a Beatle, but I mean, there's got to be more to it than that, because it's not just my generation who went there. I mean, you know, whenever I punch around in satellite radio, and it actually kind of drives me crazy, the only music that they ever play is the Beatles. So it's got to be appealing to, you know, cross-generation.
Certainly the Beatles had a really wonderful grasp on how to create great music from very early on. And obviously John, you know, Lennon and Paul McCartney had an amazing partnership. that very few writers, I think, ever had, you know. But I mean, the other part of it too is, I mean, really, when we talk about going out to see Paul McCartney, he is a living legend, and he won't be around forever. And so, you know, there are people who physically weren't alive in 1964 to go see him, and now, you know, it's nice he tours so that 25-year-olds can go see him and create their own memories of being excited about that music, you know.
You know, it's funny because they wrote so much and said so much about the older generation, you know.
Yeah.
You will still love me when I'm 64, and don't trust anybody over 30. And I can imagine back then, 30 or 40 years ago, they would have said that they would have felt like fools doing the same act 40 years later. I don't think they could have imagined themselves doing that.
No. Well, you know, I mean, maturity comes with its own. You know, obviously, when you're 20, you think you know a lot of things that you find out when you're 40 and 50, and, you know, that you don't know. And that's the wonder of it all, isn't it? I mean, you know, that people continue on like that. I think, obviously, their perspectives change. So.
But how come they aren't dismissed as, you know, old codgers and fools prancing around on the stage? I mean, I have to say, Mick Jagger, who's just a couple months short of 70, looked fantastic. He's fit. He's, you know, muscular, although he's painfully thin. He couldn't weigh 110 pounds.
Yes. That's the same, actually, with David Johansen of the New York Dolls, and better known as Buster Poindexter. Painfully thin. Yeah. I thought he was, he looked like a strong wind could have carried him away when I saw him last. But, you know, I think some people do malign older people who go out and play music. And it's interesting because I've come to realize through editing rockerzine.com and through talking to a lot of folks who continue to tour and record in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, is that lots of times people's criticism has to do with their own perceptions about mortality and aging. And if they have a positive feeling about aging, they often aren't so critical, but often I find that people's negative prejudices or fears about their own aging end up leaching into, like, you know, Paul McCartney shouldn't be playing, he's old, you know. But it is silly because at the end of the day, these people are entertainers. They bring a lot of joy to people, I think, wherever they go. And I mean, certainly 36,000 people pretty much remain happy last night. So I can't argue with those sort of, you know, outcomes.
In your estimation, because we had a little debate going on this when the Rolling Stones came into town, are these bands as good as they were?
Some are, some aren't. Some are, some aren't. You know, I hate to say, I haven't heard good things about The Who. But I also have friends who spend enormous amounts of money going to see them all over the place. So, you know, part of, obviously, again, the attraction of these people is nostalgia. But on the other hand, some of them, you know, really have been perfecting their craft. And also, when you go see a show that's this big, people have a lot of money, you know, invested. They're hiring lighting people and stage shows, so it should be nothing less than fabulous. Yeah,
it's a big show. You know, I was thinking too, there's a lot of others that aren't as old as the Beatles or the Stones, that have endured for decades. John Bon Jovi, I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah,
and he's like spread his talent. I mean, he's everywhere. He's philanthropic. He just gave $1 million to something. I can't remember what it was. The Jersey Shore, Hurricane Sandy.
Right, yes.
You know, he's big pals with Bob Kraft, so he's out there, and his music is still enduring.
Oh, yeah, and he, you know, I think I was talking about how, actually, when you look at what the top-grossing tours are, you know, just of last year, I mean, he was one of them.
I'd go to his concert anytime. Yeah.
Of course you would. I mean, you know, that is the whole thing. I mean, you know, whenever I'm going to go see the Monkees, who are here next week. I know some people like, but, you know, I did see Mike Nesmith came on a solo tour and just did his solo recordings in April. And he was amazing. And I really wasn't a fan of his solo work before, but seeing him live, you know, I think what people really react to is showmanship. And these are people, they really have been practicing their showmanship for, you know, 30, 40 years. And they're able to really bring a strong presence. Actually, Todd Rundgren will be here beginning of August.
And who's he?
He is he was a member of the Nas in the 60s. And in the 70s, a lot of people knew his songs like Hello, It's Me.
Oh, yeah,
and he did a lot of beautiful ballads and something like that. But he's a legendary record producer, and anyway, he'll be here in the beginning. And I saw him with Hall & Oates maybe like 6 years ago, and wow, was he commanding.
You're going to get to interview?
Oh, I would love that.
Well,
He's
I'll try
wonderful.
to work that out. All right, Aaron and Mara, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.